12 days, 7 billion minds working as one. Every scientist who ever lived, every doctor, every researcher, every cellular biologist on Earth, unified in a single intelligence. And they couldn't figure out why 13 people were immune. Then Carol drugged Zosia. 3 days later, breakthrough. Episode 6. Kumba tells Carol what the Hive figured out. They made this discovery only yesterday. They are not pleased about it, I can assure you. Stem cells, that's the answer. Extract them, tailor the virus to individual biology, and immunity breaks. But the timing caught me. Only yesterday means day 11 since the joining. Kumba is talking to Carol on day 12. What happened on day 8? Carol drugged Zosia with truth serum. Go back and watch that scene. Watch what happens to Zosia's connection. Carol asks about the temperature. Zosia answers with precision, 27.778 degrees Celsius, 3 decimal places. She's not guessing, she's pulling from the collective, still connected. Carol asks about wind direction. Zosia hesitates, from south, southeast. She's reaching for something that's slipping away. Carol asks about precipitation. Zosia can barely form the word, We're watching her connection fail, word by word. The drug is blocking her access to 7 billion minds. Then she tries to say we and can't finish. The collective pronoun, her entire identity, and she can't reach it anymore. The Hive gathered around Carol and Zosia, tears streaming down their faces, chanting, "Please, Carol," through their grief. They weren't seizing. When Carol's anger hits them, they seize. That's how 11 million died in episode 2. This was different. They were crying. Remember what Zosia said in episode 3? Carol asked if the whole world gets drunk when Zosia drinks. Zosia said no. Physical substances affecting one body don't transfer to the collective. So the truth serum in Zosia's bloodstream shouldn't have made them cry. The drug was only affecting her body. They weren't feeling the drug. They were feeling Zosia leaving. For those minutes of disconnection, the Hive experienced a node being pulled away. Not dying. The dead stay in the collective. Disconnected. A living mind separating from them. And then her heart stopped. Cardiac arrest. They experienced an individual body dying and coming back. Not a collective death, but a singular one. Then they left. The whole city. Everyone. Gone by morning. They told Carol they needed space, but I think they needed Zosia. She'd experienced something unprecedented. Separation from the collective while still alive. Whatever they observed during those minutes of disconnection, they needed to understand it fully. Away from Carol. Away from interference. 3 days later, they had their answer. The Hive had every memory of individual human life. Billions of people who lived alone in their own heads before the virus changed everything. But memories aren't the same as observation. They'd never watched a connected mind become disconnected. They'd never felt the transition from collective back to individual in real time, from inside and outside simultaneously. Zosia gave them that. For those minutes of disconnection, they watched collective cells start operating individually. They felt the difference. How biology changes when it's no longer part of 7 billion. The virus isn't fighting the immune system. It's looking for something, a signal, a frequency, whatever makes cells part of a collective. I think the immune don't broadcast it, and their cells work alone. So, the virus looks right past them. Stem cells, that's where cellular behavior starts. Reprogram there, and the signal switches on. So the virus finally sees what it's looking for. Immunity breaks. So, they have it. The answer. 12 days of nothing, then Carol hands them Zosia, and 3 days later, breakthrough. But remember what Kumba said. They are not pleased about it. Why? This should be victory. They finally know how to convert the immune. Unless having the answer isn't enough. unless there's something about this method they can't live with. That's when I started thinking about how the original virus spread and why this is different. The Hive converted billions people without asking anyone. The virus spread through contact. Patient 0 was bitten by a rat, she kissed someone, and it moved from there. No consent, no permission, just a wave rolling through humanity. Nearly 900 million people died in that wave. Car accidents, surgeries interrupted mid-procedure, planes falling from the sky, the chaos of billions of minds linking at once. And the Hive kept going. They didn't stop spreading. They didn't pause for the deaths. Even Zosia justified it to Carol. If someone's drowning, you throw them a life preserver. You don't wait for consensus. You don't ask permission. You act. So why do they need consent now? If the drowning logic applied to 7 billion people who never asked to be saved, why doesn't it apply to 13?
Here's what I think is actually happening. The Hive can't hurt living things. It's not a rule they follow, it's what they are. They freed zoo animals. They can't pick fruit from trees. They can't harvest crops. And direct harm is impossible for them. The virus spreading wasn't direct harm. No Hive member personally harmed anyone. The virus moved on its own, through contact, through biology. The deaths were consequences. Indirect, the chaos of transformation, not deliberate violence. Stem cell extraction is different. Someone has to pick up a needle. Someone has to push it into bone. Someone has to cause pain, deliberately, with their own hands. And they can't do that. Not unless the meaning of the act changes. If Carol says yes, if she asks them to do it, then it's not harm anymore. It's help she requested. The needle in her bone isn't violence, it's assistance. Consent doesn't give them permission. It transforms the action into something they're capable of performing. They still believe Carol is drowning. They still want to throw her the life preserver. But this particular rescue requires them to hurt her first, and they can't hurt her unless she asks them to. That's why they're not pleased. They have the answer. They finally understand what makes the immune different and how to fix it. But the answer requires them to cause pain. And causing pain requires Carol to change what that pain means. They're trapped. The method exists. They can't use it. Not until she says yes. But there's something else here. Something about Zosia that I can't stop thinking about. During those minutes of disconnection, Zosia wasn't part of the collective. The truth serum severed her. She was alone in her own head, maybe for the first time since the joining. And I keep coming back to what that must have felt like. Zosia knew individuality before the virus. Her whole life she was one person in one body. Then she joined the collective, billions of minds, never alone. Every thought held by someone else. What Carol did wasn't show Zosia what individuality feels like. Zosia already knew that. What Carol showed her was what it feels like to lose connection. Going from billions of voices to silence. From warmth to cold. From held to abandoned. There's a line from Dante. There is no greater sorrow than to remember happiness when in misery. Zosia knew warmth, and then she lost it. Remember what Zosia told Carol in episode 3, the drowning metaphor? If someone's drowning, you throw them a life preserver. Carol thought Zosia was describing her, Carol as the one drowning in individuality. But Carol's been alone most of her life. She doesn't know what air feels like. The water is normal to her. Zosia? Zosia breathed air for days, however long since the joining. She knew what connection felt like. And then Carol held her underwater. When the Hive offered to pull her back in, when they extended the life preserver, Zosia was individual enough to answer for herself. I think she said yes, not because she was manipulated, not because she didn't understand, because she'd felt both sides now. And disconnection was worse. If I'm right, the Hive has more than a method now.
they have Zosia, someone who experienced what Carol fears most, the cold silence of being alone, and chose to come back. Someone who can look Carol in the eye and say, "I've been where you are. I chose this." And then there's Carol's eggs. Frozen years ago, stored in a facility somewhere, genetic material that's no longer part of her body. Helen knew where. And the Hive has Helen's memories. The consent rules protect Carol. They can't take anything from her body without permission. But those eggs aren't in her body anymore. They've been separated for years. And by the Hive's own logic, the apple that falls from the tree, they're fair game. They could fertilize them, create embryos, grow life from Carol's genetic material, life she never agreed to create. And from those embryos, they could harvest the stem cells they need. Carol's potential children, created without her knowledge, used to convert her. The method came from Zosia. The justification came from Zosia's consent. And the material might come from Carol herself, from something she left behind years ago and forgot about. Everything they need, all from one interrogation and its consequences. Carol wanted answers. She became one.